day, everyone. We are the Group 2, and the Group 2's report is about biomes and biodiversity. But before we start with our report, we will have first a short game. This game can serve as a motivation for you to have an interest with our topic. So the game we have is a jumbled words. I know everyone has an idea on how this game works. All you have to do is to assemble the jumbled letters for you to come up with the original word. Now we have 5 numbers, and in each number you have 5 seconds to identify the original word. You can write it on a paper, on your phone, or you can even put it in your mind on of what is the answer. So I will show you here the first jumbled letters. Here you have here on the side, and you have 5 seconds. 5 seconds starts now. Time's up. So the correct answer for this is terrestrial biomes. Second, we have here the second word. The correct answer is marine environments. Third, we have the third jumbled letters. So the correct answer is freshwater ecosystems. So fourth, these are the jumbled letters. 5 seconds starts now. So there you have the 5 seconds. The correct answer is homeostasis. Lastly, we have the last jumbled letters. 5 seconds starts now. There. So the correct answer is resilience. So that's it with the short game, and I hope I've got your interest to listen to this topic. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Vigaliza A. Dongon, BSA1 major in agronomy. So, biomes. Biomes are broad categories or living systems defined mainly by climate. Biomes vary in biodiversity, productivity, and structure. Biome is a term we use to describe these broad classes of biological communities. If we know the range of temperature and precipitation in a particular place, we can generally predict what kind of biome is likely to occur there in the absence of human disturbance. Biomes are larger geographic areas with similar climates, plants, and animals. Gabase ni siya sa temperature, precipitation, and vegetation. Pareha aning boreal forest, tundra, and grassland nga bugnawon na lugar. Hangtod temperature rainforest, temperate forest, savanna, mubugnaw ni siya or muinit. Tropical rainforest, tropical seasonal forest, tropical thorn scrub, woodland, and desert. Mao ni siya ang init na lugar. So, biodiversity, an important characteristic of each biome is its, or the number and variety of biological species and live there. Species not only create much of the structure and functions of an ecosystem but also generate emergent properties such as productivity, homeostasis, and resilience. Biodiversity, this refers to the variety of living organisms found in a particular habitat or ecosystem, including naniyaan and different species of plants, animals, and microorganisms. Productivity refers to the rate at which organisms within an ecosystem produce biomass or energy. It measures how efficiently plants and other primary producers convert sunlight and water and nutrients into organic matter through photosynthesis. The rate at which plants produce biomass varies a great deal from warm to cold climates and from wet to dry environment. Pareha atong sa cold paingon og hot na weather. So, homeostasis. Stability and resilience, the ability to recover from disturbance, also depend on biodiversity and productivity. Homeostatis mao ni ang stable or balanced internal environment despite external change. Example, freshwater lake maintaining its water quality and temperature despite variations in weather conditions and inputs of nutrients or populants. This stability allows organisms within the lake to maintain balanced populations and interactions. So, resilience, clear-cut forests, for example, regrow very quickly in the warm, moist Amazon, but slowly, if at all, in northern Canada's very cold, harsh cold, dry climate, or resilience. So, resilience ability of an ecosystem to recover and adapt to disturbances or changes over time. Example niya, forest ecosystem after a wildfire. Despite the devastation caused sa fire, ang forest has mechanism in place such as seed, spiral, regrowth or vegetation, and nutrient cycling, allowing it to gradually recover and return to its pre-fire state. Mao siya ang resilience. So, these nine can be, in the sections that follow, you will learn about 9 major biotypes. These 9 can be further divided into smaller classes. For example, some temperature forests have mainly cone-bearing trees, such as pines or fir, while others have mainly broadleaf trees such as maples and oaks. So nakakita mo haning
So, hello everyone. My name is John Carsalva, and I am the second reporter of Group 2. And I will discuss continuously about the terrestrial biomes. So far, proceeding in page 9, we will back in page 8 for some example of the picture in page 9 about the generalized temperature and moisture conditions that control biomes distribution. In the section that follow, you will learn about the 9 major biomes types. These 9 can be further divided into smaller classes. For example, some temperate forests have mainly cone-bearing trees, conifers, such as pine or fir, while others have mainly broadleaf trees such as maples or oaks. So, some temperate forests have mainly cone-bearing trees, such as pine or fir. So, in that statement, you will see in the picture of page 9 that temperature forest color you will see in the map was color pink. And that part has a cone-bearing trees including pines or fir or etc. So, next is many temperatures controlled biomes occurred in latitude bands. A band of boreal forest crosses Canada, Europe, and Siberia. Tropical forest occurs near to the equator, and expensive grasslands lie near or just beyond the tropics. So, these temperature controlled biomes are distributed in latitudinal bands due to variation in climate. So boreal forests stretch across the region like Canada, Europe, traveling in the colder climates. So boreal forest, back in page 9, you will see the color part of boreal forest was upper part of the map, which is colder part. So tropical forests are found near the equator, where it's warm and humid. Expensive grassland were tropically located near or just beyond the tropics, where seasonal rainfall patterns support their growth. This distributional is largely determined by the Earth's axial tilt and resulting patterns of sunlight and temperature. So, some biomes are named for their latitude. Tropical rainforests occur between the Tropic of Cancer, 23 north, and the Tropic of Capricorn, 23 south. The Arctic tundra lies near or above the Arctic Circle is 66.6 north. This explanation is easy to understand, no? Because it gives direct conclusion. The 23 north latitude was between the Tropic of Cancer. In 23 south latitudes, the Tropic of Capricorns, and the 66.6 north latitudes, the Arctic lies near or above the Arctic circle. So, temperature and precipitation change with elevations as well as with latitude. In mountainous regions, temperatures are colder and precipitation is usually greater at high elevations. So, next is mountains are colder and often weather than the low elevations. Vertically, zonation is a term applied to vegetation zones defined by altitude. 100 kilometers transects from California Central Valleys up to Mountain Whitney, for examples, crosses as many vegetation zones as you would find on a journey from Southern California to Northern Canada. So, mountains tropical experience colder temperatures and higher precipitation compared to low elevations. Compared to the page 11 about the pictures, it explained that the upper part was colder than below part. And also in a vertical zonation, zonations refers to the pattern of distinct vegetations, zones that occurs at different altitudes on mountains due to variations in climates and environmental conditions. For instance, a 100-kilometer journey from California Central Valley to the mountain with Whitney's involves traversing through multiple vegetation zones, mirroring the diversity one might encounter on journey from Southern California to North Canada, showcasing how altitudes influence the ecosystem distribution. So, this is the structures of this is the pictures found in page 11. So the next is, as you consider the terrestrial biomes, compare the climatic conditions that help shape them. To begin, examine the three climate graphs in figure 5.6, which found in page 13. This graph shows annual trends in temperatures and precipitations, rainfall, and snowfall. They also indicates the relationship between potential evaporation, which depends on temperatures and precipitation. So, when evaporations exceeds precipitations, dry conditions results was marked in yellow. Moist climates may vary in precipitation rates, but evaporation rarely exceeds precipitation. Months above freezing temperatures marked brown have most evaporation. Comparing these climate graphs help us understand the differential condition that controls plant and animal growth in the different biomes. So now in the page 13, the picture shows the color which explain the part of temperature, precipitation, month above freezing, evaporation exceeds precipitation, precipitation exceeds evaporation, and precipitation scales change. Every parts and color was explained directly. Moistures available depends on temperature as well as precipitation. Thank you.
So, I will be discussing the tropical moist forests are warm and wet year-round. So, the humid tropical regions are the home to some of the most diverse and biological rich biome types in the world, with ample rainfall and uniform temperature. These areas support a wide variety of plant and animal species. The lush vegetation found in these forests provides habitat for countless organisms from insects to mammals to birds. So there are several kinds of moist tropical forest, each with its own unique characteristics. However, they all share the common trait of being incredibly biodiverse. The dense canopy of the trees in this forest creates a complex ecosystem where different species interact and depend on each other for survival. So despite facing threats such as deforestation and climate change, the humid tropical regions continue to be vital centers of biodiversity. It is essential that we work towards prevailing this precious ecosystem for future generation to enjoy and study. So, cool cloud forests are found high in the mountains where fog and mist keep vegetation wet all the time. These unique ecosystems are characterized by an abundance of moisture, creating a lush and diverse environment for plant and animal life to thrive. So the constant presence of clouds help us regulate temperature and humidity, providing ideal conditions for a variety of species to flourish. flourish. So cloud forests play a crucial role in maintaining biodiversity and are essential for the health of our planet's ecosystem. Tropical rainforests are found in regions where rainfall exceeds 200 centimeters per year and temperature remains warm to hot throughout the year. This combination of abundant rainfall and consistent warmth creates a lush, diverse ecosystem um, teeming with life. So the high levels of precipitation support a dense canopy of trees that provide habitat for count, countless species of plant and animals. The constant ramp allows for year-round growth and productivity, making tropical rainforests some of the most biological rich environment on Earth. The nutrient cycle of tropical rainforests are crucial for the lush and vibrant growth that characterize this ecosystem.
So also about 90% of all the nutrients in the rainforest are contained within the bodies of living organisms. So highlighting the importance of recycling and decomposition processes. So when leaves and branches fall to the forest floor, they quickly decay and are incorporated back into the living biomes. So this rapid recycling ensures that essential nutrients are continuously available for plant growth. However, when forests are cleared for logging, agriculture, or mineral extraction, this delicate balance is disrupted. The thin soil left behind cannot support continued cropping, and it's vulnerable to erosion from the heavy rains. So the discovery of the forest ecosystem after such disturbance could take centuries, um, emphasizing the importance of preserving these vital habits for future generation. So the next topic I will be discussing is all about that tropical seasonal forests have annual dry season. So in this topic, tropical seasonal forests are characterized by distinct wet and dry seasons throughout the year. And these forests are found in regions near the equator where there is a consistent amount of sunlight and rainfall. So the annual dry season occurs when there is a decrease in precipitation leading to dry condition in the forest. During the dry season, many trees shed their leaves to conserve water and reduce transpiration. This results in a landscape that appears barren and brown compared to the lush greenery of the wet season. Some plants have adapted to survive the dry season by storing water or going to dormant until conditions improve. So despite the challenges posed by the annual dry season, tropical seasonal forests are incredible diverse ecosystem that support a wide variety of plant and animal species. The alternating wet and dry seasons create a dynamic environment where life thrives in harmony with nature's rhythms. So, tropical dry forests have long been considered more attractive for human habitation compared to wet forests due to several factors. Firstly, clearing a dry forest with a fire is much easier during the dry season, making it more accessible for settlement. And additionally, the soils of the dry forest tend to have a higher nutrient levels and more agriculturally productive than those of rainforest. Furthermore, the dry forests typically have fewer insect, parasites, and fungal diseases than wet forests, making them a healthier environment for humans to live in. However, these appealing qualities have led to greater degradation from settlement and agriculture activities. As a result of this topic, many areas with dry tropical forests are now highly engaged with less than 1% remaining in the undisturbed state in regions such as Central America and South America. It is crucial that efforts are made to protect and preserve this valuable ecosystem before they disappear entirely.
So this is the continuation of Miss Ates. The topic is all about tropical savannas and grasslands are dry most of the year. So where there is too little rainfall to support forests, we find open grasslands or grasslands with sparse tree cover, which we call savannas. So the transition from forest to savannas typically occurs in regions with low rainfall where the water availability is insufficient to support dense forest growth. The scarcity of water limits the growth of large trees leading to the dominance of grasslands or savannas instead. Factors such as soil type, temperature, and fire frequency also play roles in shaping the landscape into savannas with sparse tree cover. The balance of these environmental factors determines the composition and structures of the ecosystem, resulting in the characteristic open grasslands with scattered trees that define savannas. Like tropical seasonal forests, most tropical savannas and grasslands have a rainy seasons, but generally the rains are less abundant or less dependable than in a forest. During dry seasons, fires can sweep across a grassland, killing off young trees and keeping the landscape open. Just like today, init kayo at panahon, it can cause dying the trees or grass. So, savanna and grassland plants have many adaptations to survive drought, heat, and fires. Many have deep, long-lived roots that leave groundwater and that persist when leaves and stems above the ground die back. After a fire or drought, fresh, green shoots grow quickly from the roots. Migratory grazers such as wild bees, antelope, or bison thrive on this new growth. Grazing pressure from domestic livestock is an important threat to both the plants and the animals of tropical grasslands and savannas. Now let's move on to these deserts are hot or cold but always dry. Deserts are typically hot during the day because they receive intense sunlight due to their location near the equator, resulting in high temperature. However, they can be cold at night due to low humidity, which causes rapid heat loss. Their vegetation is sparse, but it can be surprisingly diverse, and most desert plants and animals are highly adapted to survive the long drought, extreme heat, and often extreme cold. Deserts occur when the precipitation is sporadic and low, usually with less than 30 centimeters of rain per year. Adaptation to these conditions include water storing leaves and stems, thick epidermal layers to reduce water loss and salt tolerance. As in other dry environments, many plants are drought deciduous. Most desert plants also bloom and seed quickly when rain does fall. So, warm, dry, high pressure climate conditions create deserts regions at about 30 degrees north and south. Extensive deserts occur in continental interiors, where rain is rare and evaporation rates are high, of North America, Central Asia, Africa, and Australia. Like plants and animals in these deserts are especially adapted, many are nocturnal, spending their days in burrows to avoid the sun's heat and desiccations. Pocket mice, kangaroo rats, and gerbils can get most of their moisture from seeds and plants. Desert rodents also have highly concentrated urine and nearly dry feces, which allow them to eliminate body waste without losing precious moisture. Sparse, slow-growing vegetation is quickly damaged by off-road vehicles. Desert soils recover slowly. Deserts are also vulnerable to overgrazing in Africa's vast Sahel, the southern edge of the Sahara's deserts. Livestock are destroying much of the plant cover. Bare dry soils becomes drifting sands and stabilization is extremely difficult without plants, roots, and organic matter. The soil loses its ability to retain what rain does fall and the land becomes progressively drier and more bare.
Temperate grasslands have rich soils. As in tropical latitude temperatures, mid-latitude grasslands occur where there is enough rain to support abundant grass but not enough for forests. Usually, grasslands are completely diverse mix of grasses and flowering herbaceous plants, generally known as forbs. Varied flowery forbs make a grassland colorful and lovely in summer. In dry grassland, vegetation may be less than a meter tall. In more humid areas, grasses can exceed 2 meters. Where scattered trees occur in a grassland, we call it a savanna. Leaf roots hill plant in temperate grassland, and savanna survive drought fire and extreme heat and cold. These roots, together with an annual winter accumulation of dead leaves on the surface, produce thick organic rich soils in the buried grassland. Because of this rich soil, many grasslands have been converted to farmland. Excessive grazing eventually kills even deep-root plants. As the ground cover dies off, soil erosion results in unpalatable weeds such as cheatgrass or leafy spurge spread. The example of grassland is the Great Plains in North America, stretching from Canada down to Texas. This vast grassland is known for its sweeping landscapes of tall grass and mixed grass, prairies, bison, pronghorn, and various bird species are some of the iconic wildlife that call this region home. Also, grasslands, also known as prairie steppes or savannas, are vast areas dominated by grasses, herbs, and other non-woody plants. They can be found in every continent except Antarctica and vary widely in size, climate, and biodiversity. Next, temperatures scrubland have summer drought. Often dry environments support drought-adapted shrub and trees as well as grass. These mixed environments can be highly variable. They can be also very rich biological, such as conditions are often described as Mediterranean, where the hot season coincides with the dry season, producing hot, dry summer and cool, moist winters. Periodic fires, born firstly in a foliage plant assemblage, and are major factor in plant succession. Annual spring flowers often bloom profusely, especially after fires. In California, this landscape is called chaparral, Spanish for thicket. The next one, temperature forests can be evergreen or deciduous. Deciduous forests, broadleaf forests, occur throughout the world, where rainfall is plentiful in mid-latitudes. These forests are deciduous and lose their leaves in winter. Deciduous forests can regrow quickly because they occupy moist, moderate climates, but most of these forests have been occupied so long that human impacts are extensive and most native species are at least somewhat threatened. A prime example of deciduous forest is the temperate deciduous forest found in regions like eastern North America, Europe, and parts of Asia. These forests are characterized by their four distinct seasons, with trees shedding their leaves in the fall and regrowing them in the spring. Oak, maple, beech, and birch are common tree species in this forest, which support a diverse range of wildlife, including deer, squirrels, and various bird species. The next one, coniferous forest. Evergreen forests of plants, spruce, fir, and other species grow in a wide range of environmental conditions. Often, they occur with moistures, if limited. In cold climate, moisture is unavailable. In winter, hot climates may have seasonal drought. Sandy soils hold little moisture and they are often occupied by conifers. The coniferous forests of the Pacific coast grow in extremely wet conditions. The example of coniferous forest, Rataggia, also known as the boreal forest, is a prime example of coniferous forest. It spans the northern region of North America, Europe, and Asia, encircling the Arctic Circle. This biome is characterized by its cold, harsh winter and short, cool summers. Conifers such as pine, spruce, and fir dominated the landscape, with species like moose, wolves, and bears adapted to its unique condition.
Boreal forests lie north of the temperate zone. Because conifers can survive winter cold, they tend to dominate the boreal forest of northern forest that lies between about 50 and 60 Celsius. Mountainous areas at lower latitude may also have many characteristics and species of the boreal forest. Dominant trees are pines, hemlock, spruce, cedar, and fir. Some deciduous trees are also present, such as maples, birch, aspen, and alder. These forests are slow growing because of the cold temperatures and short frost-free growing season, but they are also still an impressive resources. They are favorite place for hunting, fishing, and recreation as well as extractive resources used. If those forests disappear as a result of global warming, but both human use and the unique species such as moose, lynx, and otter that depend on that biome will be surely missed. The extreme range of the boreal forest where forest gradually gives way to open tundra is known by Russian name taiga. Taiga. The taiga is forest biome found in cold climates like Canada, Alaska, and Russia. It also called the boreal forest. The taiga has lots of evergreen trees like spruce, fir, and pine. It's cold there, but not also cold as the tundra. Animals like moose, bear, and wolves live in the taiga and are adapted the snowy winters and short summer. Here, extremely cold and short summer limit the growth rate of trees. A 10 cm diameter tree may be over 200 years old in the north. Tundra, a treeless landscape that occurs uh, at high latitude or on mountain tops has growing season of only 2 to 3 months, and it may have frost any month of the year. Some people consider tundra as variant of grassland because it has no trees. Others consider it a very cold desert because water is unavailable most of the year. The tundra is cold ice place where the ground is almost all the time. It's found in really cold areas like Arctic and high mountain tops. There aren't many trees there because it's too cold for them to grow. But you might see some short plants like grasses, and small shrub. Animals like polar bears, caribou, and Arctic fox live there and have adapted the silly condition. Arctic tundra is an expansive biome that has low productivity because it has short growing season. During midsummer, however, 24-hour sunshine support a burst of plant growth and explosion of insect life. Tens of millions of water flow, shorebirds, terns, and songbirds migrate to the Arctic every year. The feast on the abundant invertebrate and plant life and to raise their young on the brief bounty. The Arctic tundra is a vast ice biome located on the Earth's northernmost regions characterized by freezing temperature, permafrost, and a lack of trees. Instead, it is dominated by low-growing vegetation like moose, lynch, and shrubs. The harsh condition of the Arctic tundra make it difficult for most plant and animal life to thrive, but it's home to species like caribou, polar bears, and Arctic fox and various migratus bird. Alpine tundra, occurring on the near mountain tops, has environmental condition and vegetation similar to Arctic tundra. These areas have a short, intense growing season, often one sees of the splendid profusion of flowers in alpine tundra. Everything must flower at once in order to produce seeds in a few weeks before the snow comes again. Many alpine tundra plants also have a deep pigmentation and leafy leaves to protect against the strong ultraviolet light in the thin mountain atmosphere. Alpine tundra, it's like a chilly garden while up in the mountains. It's cold and rocky with short plants like grasses and small shrubs. Animals like mountain goats and more marmots live there and used to the cold weather. Tundra can freeze in any month. Compared to other biomes, tundra has a relative low diversity. Draft, draft shrubs such as willows, sage, grasses, moose, and lichens tend to dominate the vegetation. Migrator, musk ox, caribou, or alpine mountain sheep and mountain goats can live on the vegetation because they move frequently to new pasture. Because the environment are too cold for most human activity, they are not as badly treated as their biomes.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Franz Bonifacio, and I will discuss marine environments. Oceans cover nearly three-fourths of the Earth's surface, and they contribute in important, although often unrecognized, ways to terrestrial ecosystem. Like land-based system, most marine communities depend on photosynthetic organism. Often it is algae or tiny free-floating photosynthetic plants or tinatawag nating phytoplankton that support a marine food web rather than the trees and grasses we see on land. In ocean, photosynthetic activity tends to be the greatest near coastlines, where nitrogen, phosphorus, and other nutrients wash offshore and fertilize primary producers. Ocean currents also contribute to the distribution of biological productivity as they transport nutrients and phytoplankton far from shore. As plankton, algae, fish, and other organisms die, they sink toward the ocean floor. Deep ocean ecosystems consisting of crabs, filter feeding filter feeding organisms, strange phosphorescent fish, and many other life forms often rely on this marine snow as a primary nutrient source. Surface communities also depends on this material. Upwelling currents circulate nutrients from the ocean floor back. So, marine environment is similar to terrestrial systems. The majority of marine ecosystems rely on photosynthetic organisms or amo na siya ginatawag naton nga mga plankton or mga algae like mga ana god. Most frequently it's algae or microscopic floating photosynthetic plant rather than the trees and planktons that support a marine food system. So photosynthetic activity in waters is typically highest close to coastlines, where primarily nutrients like as phosphorus, nitrogen, and others wash up offshore and fertilize acres. Additionally, the distribution of biological productivity is influenced by ocean currents such they move plankton and nutrients far from the coast. Fish, plankton, algae, and other dead species sink toward the direction of the ocean or amo na siya nga tawag nga sa pinakadalom sa tubig. Ecosystem found in deep waters were feeding creatures like crabs, numerous other living forms including odd phosphorescent fish frequently depend on this. So kana ang mga sa lalo mga sa lalo mga sapat nga mga ang gagaistra nga mga sa tubig, sila na ang ga consume sa mga dead fish na nga mga sapat halin sa babaw nga gasink lang padalom. So marine snow is the main source of nutrients. Surface societies are also reliant on the substance circulating nutrients from the ocean floor or upwelling currents returning to the surface. So next is vertical stratification. So what is vertical stratification? Vertical stratification is a key feature of aquatic ecosystems. Light decreases rapidly with depth, and communities below is the photic zone or ginatawag natin nga light zone. Often reaching about 20 meters deep, must rely on energy source other than photosynthesis to persist. Temperature also decreases depth with depth. Deep ocean species often grow slowly in part because metabolism is reduced in cold conditions. In contrast, warm, bright, near surface communities, such as coral reefs and estuaries, are among the world's most biological productive environments. Temperature also affects the amount of oxygen and other elements that can be absorbed in water. Cold water holds abundant oxygen, so productivity is often high in cold oceans, as in the North Atlantic, North Pacific, and Antarctic. So kung sa ocean daw, kung ara ka sa pinakababaw, cold na siya kaayo nga water. So hasta nga makalabot ka sa lalom, sa mag-deep na nga ano na ged, makalabot ka sa 20 meters, gamat-amat na siya change iyang temperature para change na iyang temperature sa init. So vertical stratification is a marine environments refers to the layering of water based on factors light, Availability and temperature. Light decreases rapidly with depth, limiting photosynthesis to thus shallow sunlight areas known as the photic zone. Below this zone is communities rely on alternative energy sources. Temperature also decreases with depth, affecting metabolism and growth rates. Cold water regions tend to be more productive due to abundant oxygen and nutrients availability contrasting with warmer surface communities like coral reefs and estuaries. So the last is the open ocean communities vary surface to hadal zone. So ocean systems can be described by depth and proximity to shore. In general, benthic communities occurs on the bottom and pelagic or sea in Greek. Pelagic or sea in Greek. Zones are the water column and the epipelagic zone is epi means on top has photosynthetic organism. So top C, epipelagic zone, top C. Below this are the mesopelagic. Meso is a medium and bathypelagic or batos, the deep zones. The deepest layer are the abyssal zones is to 4,000 meter and hadal zone deeper than 6 meter. Shorelines are known as littoral zones and the area exposed by low tides is known as the intertidal zone. Often there is a broad relative shallow region along a continent coast which may reach a few kilometers for hundreds of kilometers from shore. This undersea area is a continental shelf. And that's all. Thank you.
Biomes and biodiversity. As in the open ocean, shoreline communities vary with depth, light, and temperature. Some shoreline communities, such as estuaries, have high biological productivity and diversity because they are enriched by nutrients washing from the land. So it explains that certain shoreline communities like estuaries have high levels of biological productivity and diversity. Others, such as coral reefs, occur where there is little runoff from shore but were shallow. Clear, warm water supports photosynthesis. Coral reefs are among the best known marine systems because of their extraordinary biological productivity and their diverse and beautiful organisms. So, coral reefs are underwater structures made from calcium carbonate secreted by corals. They form in shallow, warmer waters where there is little runoff from land. So, reefs are colonies of linnet, colonial animals or coral polyps that live symbiotically with photosynthetic algae. Calcium-rich coral skeletons shelter in the algae, and algae nourish the coral animals. So, the coral animals provide a shelter made of calcium-rich skeletons for the algae, and in return, the algae provide nourishment for the coral animals. The complex structure of a reef also shelters countless species of fish, worms, crustaceans, and other life forms. Reefs occur where the water is shallow and clear enough for sunlight to reach the photosynthetic algae. They cannot tolerate abundant nutrients in the water as nutrients support plankton or tiny floating plants and animals, which block sunlight. So reefs are complex structure that provides shelter for a wide variety of marine life and cannot thrive in nutrient-rich water because the nutrients support plankton, which can block sunlight essential for algae. Coral bleaching. The whitening of reefs due to stress, often followed by coral death, is a growing and spreading problem that worries marine biologists. So coral bleaching occurs when corals expel the algae living in their tissues, causing them to turn white. Seagrass beds occupy shallow, warm, sandy coastlines. Like reefs, they support rich communities of grazers, from snails to turtles to Florida's manatees. Also, like coral reefs, seagrass systems are very vulnerable to ocean warming. Similar to coral reefs, these habitats support a diverse array of marine life. Mangroves. Mangroves are a diverse group of salt-tolerant trees that grow along warm, calm marine coasts around the world. Growing in shallow tidal mudflats, mangroves help stabilize shorelines, blunt the force of storms, and build land by trapping sediment and organic material. Detritus, including fallen leaves, collects yellow mangroves and provides nutrients for a diverse community of animals and plants. Both marine species, such as crabs and fish, and terrestrial species, such as birds and bats, rely on mangroves for shelter and food. The mangroves help stabilize shorelines, blunt the force of storms, and build land by trapping sediment and organic material. Estuaries are bays where rivers empty into the sea, mixing fresh water with salt water. Salt marshes, shallow wetlands flooded regularly or occasionally with seawater occur on shallow coastlines including estuaries. Usually calm, warm, and nutrient-rich estuaries provide nutrients and sediments, and a muddy bottom supports emergent plants whose leaves emerge above the water surface, as well as the young forms of crustaceans such as crabs and shrimps, and mollusks such as clams and oysters. Estuaries are bays where rivers empty into the sea, mixing fresh water with salt water, and usually calm, warm, and nutrient-rich estuaries and salt marshes are biologically diverse and productive. In, con- in contrast to the shallow, calm conditions of estuaries, coral reefs, and mangroves, there are violent wave-blasted shorelines that support fascinating life forms in tide pools. Tide pools are depressions in a rocky shoreline that are flooded at high tide but retain some water at low tide. These areas remain rocky where wave action prevents most wet plant growth or sediment or mud accumulation. Extreme conditions with frigid flooding at high tide and hot desiccating sunshine at low tide make life impossible for most species. But the specialized animals and plants that do occur in this rocky intertidal zone are astonishingly diverse and beautiful.
So, good day. I am going to continue the report, and my topic is about the freshwater ecosystems. So, freshwater systems vary in depth, nutrients, and circulation. Wetlands are disproportionately important for biodiversity. Freshwater environments are far less extensive than marine environments, but they are centers of biodiversity. Most terrestrial communities rely to some extent on freshwater environments. Isolated pools, streams, and even underground water systems support astonishing biodiversity in deserts as well as provide water to land animals. So, this passage highlights the significance of freshwater systems in supporting biodiversity. It emphasizes that freshwater places like lakes and rivers are different in how deep they are, what nutrients they have, and how water moves there. So, wetlands like swamps are super important for having lots of different plants and animals. Even though there's not much fresh water as oceans, freshwater places have a ton of different living things. Animals and plants on land also need freshwater places to live. Furthermore, it stresses the vital role of freshwater systems in supporting terrestrial communities, showcases showcases the surprising biodiversity found in isolated pools, streams, and underground water systems, even in desert regions. So next we have the lakes have extensive open water. So freshwater lakes, like marine environments, have distinct vertical zones. Near the surface, a subcommunity of plankton, mainly microscopic plants, animals, and protists, or what we call a single-celled organism such as a mobae, floats freely in the water column. Insects such as water striders and mosquitoes also live at the air-water interface. Fish move through the water column, sometimes near the surface and sometimes at depth. Finally, the bottom, or benthos, is occupied by a variety of snails, burrowing worms, fish, and other organisms. This make up the benthic community. Oxygen levels are lowest in the benthic environment, mainly because there is a little mixing to introduce oxygen to this zone. Anaerobic Anaerobic or not using oxygen bacteria may live in low oxygen sediments. In the littoral zone, emergent plants such as cattails and rushes grow in the bottom sediment. These plants create important functional links between layers of an aquatic ecosystem, and they may provide the greatest primary productivity to the system. This explains that lakes have different layers of water, like floors in a building. Near the top, tiny plants and animals float around, and bugs like water striders and mosquitoes hang out on the surface. So, fish swim up and down through the layers, sometimes staying near the top and sometimes going deeper. At the very bottom of lakes, there are a lot of different creatures like snails, worms, and fish, and they form a community called the benthos. There's not much oxygen down there because the water doesn't mix much. Some bacteria live there without needing oxygen. Near the shore, plants like cattails grow in the mud. They help connect different parts of the lake and are super important for making food. So next we have the continuation of lakes have extensive open water. Lakes, unless they are shallow, have a warmer upper layer that is mixed by wind and warmed by the sun. This layer is the epilimnion. You can see in the picture the epilimnion is found in the most top. So below the epilimnion is the hypolimnion. Hypo means below, a colder, deeper layer that is not mixed. So we can see also in the picture, the hypolimnion is on the middle part. Also, if you have gone swimming in a moderately deep lake, you may have discovered the sharp temperature boundary, known as thermocline. Between these layers, below this boundary, the water is much colder. This boundary is also called the mesolimnion. So in the picture, you have the thermocline, which is below the epilimnion. This is where the temperature. This is the temperature boundary, and below the thermocline is, which is the hypolimnion, and below the hypolimnion is the mesolimnion. So next we have the local conditions that affect the characteristics of an aquatic community. This includes the first, nutrient availability or excess, such as nitrates and phosphates. So nutrients like nitrate and phosphates affect plant and algae growth if excessive amount is being used. Second, we have the suspended matter, such as silk, that affects light penetration. So this impacts the penetration of light, which is vital for photosynthesis by aquatic plants. Third, we have the depth. It influences temperature, light availability, and species distribution. Fourth, we have the temperature. Temperature affects metabolic rates and distribution of aquatic organisms. Fifth, we have the currents. So water currents influences nutrients distribution, oxygen levels, and the movement of organisms within aquatic ecosystem. So 6, we have the bottom characteristics such as muddy, sandy, or rocky floor. So muddy, sandy, or rocky floors provide different habitats. 7, we have the internal currents. Internal currents within the water body, such as upwelling and downwelling, can transport nutrients and oxygen vertically. Lastly, we have the connections to or isolation from other aquatic and terrestrial systems. So, the connectivity of aquatic ecosystem to other water bodies and terrestrial habitats influences species dispersal, gene flow, and nutrients exchange.
Hello, my name is Carl Daniel Ramirez, and this is my report. And today I'm going to talk about my report. It's all about wetland are shallow and productive. Now, when we say productive, it is typically refers to the ability of a system or environment to produce or support a high amount of biological activity or output. In the context of ecosystems are productive environments and one that sustains a diverse range of plants, animals, and other organisms. Often due to factors like nutrients availability, sunlight, and water. Now, when we say shallow, it refers to the limited deep depth of thickness of something such as water, soil, or a container. In the context of water bodies like wetlands or lakes, shallow refers to an area where the depth is relatively low, often allowing sunlight to penetrate to the bottom. Now, wetlands are shallow ecosystem in which the land surface is saturated or submerged at least part of the year. In my own words, I mean that the wetlands are areas where the ground is often soggy or underwater, like marsh or swamps. Wetlands have vegetation that is adapted to grow under saturated conditions. These relatively small systems support the rich biodiversity, and they are essential for both breeding and migrating birds. Now, they're full of plants that love wet conditions, attracting many types of birds, especially those that nest or migrate. Not just birds, but also some reptilians and other species. As water stands in wetland, it also seeps into the ground, replenishing groundwater supplies. Now, they act like natural reservoirs, storing water that eventually seeps underground to replenish or our water sources. Wetlands also filter and even purify urban and farm runoff of bacteria and plants, take up nutrients and contaminants in water. Now, what Wetlands work as natural filter, cleaning up pollution from urban and farm runoff with the help of plants and bacteria, so it is very useful. They are also in great demand of filling and development. They are often near cities or farms where land is valuable, and once drained, wetlands are easily converted to more lucrative uses. Unfortunately, wetlands are often destroyed or development or farming, especially since they're close to cities and farms. Let's continue to the pictures. Now, wetlands described on their tree vegetations. Now, the first picture is a swamp. Now, swamp is also called wooded wetlands, are wetlands with trees. Marshes are wetlands without trees. The water is marsh and swamps usually is shallow enough to allow full penetration of sunlight in seasonal warming. This mild condition favor great photosynthesis activity resulting in high productivity at all tropic levels. For clarification, wetlands with trees are typically referred to as swamps or forested wetlands. In these areas, trees and other woody vegetation thrive in waterlogged conditions, often withstanding water presence of part of the year. These wetlands are common in low-lying areas and along riverbanks where the soil is saturated with water. While marshes, on the other hand, are wetlands without trees. They are characterized by grasses, reeds, and other non-woody vegetations. Marshes usually have shallow water or saturated soil but lack significant tree cover. They're, they're commonly found in both freshwater and saltwater environments, such as along coastlines, riverbanks, or in a low-lying areas prone to flooding. Now, distinction between wetlands with trees, which is a swamp, and those wetlands without trees are marshes, is mainly based on the type of vegetation that dominates the area, which is turn depends on factors like water depth, soil type, and local climate. Bogs are areas of waterlogged ground characterized by their unique composition and vegetation. They form as depressions where water collects, leading to water saturated of the soil. What sets bogs apart is the accumulation of peat, which is type of soil made up with particle decayed organic matter, primarily consisting of mosses, sedges, and other wetland plants. The formation of peat occur over thousands of years as dead plant materials build up and decompose very slowly due to the waterlogged and acidic condition of the bog. The layers of the peat act like a sponge holding water and creating the characteristic spongy feel of bogs. Because of their high water content and acidic conditions, bog supports unique plant communities adapted to those harsh conditions such as Champagnum mosses and carnivorous plants like sandus and pitcher's plant. The thick layer of peat also serves as a significant carbon store, making bogs important for carbon sequestration and climate regulation. Let's proceed to fens are similar to bogs except that they are mainly fed by groundwater, so that they have mineral-rich water and specially adapted plant species. Now, bogs and fens are both types of wetlands, but they differ in their formation, hydrology, and vegetation. Bogs from depressions water where water collects, leading to water saturation of the soil. They are characterized by acidic and nutrient-poor conditions, resulting in slow decomposition of organic matter in the accumulation of peat. Bogs typically have sphagnum mosses as the dominant vegetation and often support unique plants species adapted to those harsh conditions, while fens, on the other hand, are fed by groundwater, which in minerals are nutrients resulting in less acidic and more nutrient-rich conditions compared to bogs. Fens usually have a constant water supply from groundwater seepage, which supports all different suites of vegetation compared by bogs. Fens are often dominated by seeds, grasses, and herbaceous plants, while bogs and fens share some similarities such wetland ecosystems such as their waterlogged nature and importance of biodiversity. Their diverse recognition is a terms of their hydrology, vegetation, and overall ecological characteristics. Now let's proceed to streams and water. River are open systems. Now, streams and water are considered open system because they interact with their surroundings environment, exchanging energy and matter with it. In the case of streams, they receive water from precipitation, surface runoff, and groundwater, while also losing water through evaporation and seepage into ground. Similarly, bodies of water like lakes or oceans receive inputs such as rivers, precipitation, and groundwater, and also water through evaporation and outflow. This constant exchange with the surroundings environment characterizing them as open systems. Now, streams from wherever precipitation exceeds evaporation and surplus water drains from the land. Streams are formed when there are more rains or snowmelt than can be evaporated, leading to water running off the land. Now, within small streams, ecologists distinguish areas of riffles where water runs rapidly over a rocky substrate and pools which are deeper structured of slowly moving current. Now, shallow fast moving areas over rocky surface and pools deeper slower moving areas. Water tends to be well mixed and oxygenated, and riffles pools tend to collect silt and organic matter. Riffles typically have well mixed oxygenated water, while pools accumulated sediment and organic matters. If deep enough, pools can have a vertical zone similar to those of lakes. It can develop vertical zones similar to those found in lakes if they're deep enough. As streams collect water and merge, they form rivers, although there isn't universal definition of when one turns into the other. Ecologists consider a river system of this continuum of constantly changing environmental conditions and commonly inhabitants from the headwaters to the mouth of a drainage or watershed. Now, rivers from streams merge, but there's no strict boundary between them as they're part of the continuous environmental and community gradients from headwaters to mouth. The biggest distinction between streams and lakes ecosystems is that in a stream materials including plants, animals, and water are continuously moved downstream by flowing currents. The key difference between streams and lake ecosystems is that streams have continuous flow transporting materials downstream. This, downs- this downstream drifts in offset of active movement of animals upstreams, productivity in the streams itself, and input of materials from adjacent wetlands of uplands. Despite downstreams from those movement upstreams by some animals, streams productivity and input of materials from surrounding wetlands or uplands. Thank you for watching my reports.